All right, so today my community partnership that I'm going to talk about is Community Action Duluth. Um, I don't know a whole lot about them as far as working with them in the community, but what I do have is some professional development experience with them that I was super excited to share with you today. So, Community Action Duluth is a um, community advocacy group. They're a leader in eliminating barriers. They're determined to find solutions. And one of the ways that they helped the Superior School District was they're able to take some risks that maybe our administrators and our teachers and other people in our district can't take. And what I mean by that is, so Community Action Duluth offered the race awareness workshop for us. I was one of the first cohorts to go. There were four half-day pullouts that or maybe it was three half-day pullouts of discussion around race, culture, and the intersection between race, culture, and societal norms and references, and taking a look at our own policies and peeling back some of the policies and looking through in a deep dive and a different lens on what those mean and what are our cultural um, shifts in changing our mindset. What is that going to look like for us? And as a leader in the building and as leaders in our community, how can we use this to better ourselves and then better the students around us? So Community Action Duluth really did a great job of bringing in. They brought in Xavier Bell and the other guy's name. Oh gosh, it's sort of Dave something. I can't remember his name now, and I'd have to go through all my notes to try and find it. So I'll just say Xavier and Dave came and talked to us, and Xavier Bell was just an amazing speaker. He really pushed a lot of people in challenging some of their thinking and challenging their questions with challenging questions. So um, again, Community Action Duluth is really willing to take those risks by putting people out there that understand and know the intersection of race and culture and in our society. Um, One of the things that's dangerous about professional development, and I know it's built into our schedule a lot of times, and it's mandatory for everyone all the time, during the school year, but this was a voluntary action. It was voluntary by a lot of people that decided, you know what, I want to be a leader in this building and I want to help my colleagues change their mindset. Because changing the mindset of your colleagues, especially I'm learning some of the ones that are, I'll call more experienced, is super difficult. It's a struggle because they feel like they've seen it all, they understand that they've done this before and it hasn't worked. And our book does a really good job of referencing some strategies on how to change that mindset of, well, explain to me why it didn't work or what we're doing now isn't working. Let's try and find something that does work. And maybe this won't work either, but we've got to try something different because what we're doing now isn't working. And not to say that what Superior was doing or what Superior's policies had weren't effective around race and culture and discrimination and that intersection of marginalized groups, including special education students. Um, but what we need to do is consistently look at those policies and consistently look at those procedures to make sure that we're allowing everyone to tell their story. One of the important parts of this professional development, so let me finish my thought there. Sorry. So the dangerous part of professional development is it's offered, people sign up for it, or they're mandatorily offered, mandatorily have to take it, and then it goes away. People are excited about it. They talk about it, at the at the lunch table or getting coffee or whatever it may be, and then it kind of goes away. This has been around now for this is the second cohort of staff that have volunteered to do this year, and I believe there will be a third cohort. And at the end of the year, at the end of the third cohort, they're gonna bring us all back together and talk about um, what are we gonna start doing differently. And it's just super exciting to have this offer, but it's dangerous because it's professional development is dangerous because it doesn't always there isn't always that follow up piece and revisiting having some action plans around that, it can be kind of difficult. So one of the things that I think I found most beneficial in this, and again, I'm going to be kind of clicking through some of my slides here. Um, One of the things that I found most beneficial was sitting down with my colleagues and having a conversation. The most powerful conversation starter that they asked us to do was to say, what are some ways that Superior can build opportunities for people to tell their stories? How can we do that? Right? So there's a dangerous way to look at offering educational opportunities for everyone. The first and the most obvious is, what I've seen anyway, is that people offer educational opportunities, or they're up there teaching and they're sharing their own stories, but they don't always often ask students to share. They're always not they're always I should always and never are two words I don't ever want to use, which is another one. But it's frustrating when we don't allow some students to share their stories, and and in a lot of ways we need to bring in the family as well. So that's another area that was one area that I felt was one of the most powerful ways. And I won't get into the details because it's a very complex question, and I could take 25 minutes to explain some of the conversations that I had. It was really powerful. In community in the race awareness workshop really is going to focus around those countering racial biases. So in our lessons, what are we doing to counter some possible racial biases in our lessons that we're offering? How do we boost some of that employee retention? How do we get more people of color interested in coming to Superior to teach? How do we get more people from diverse backgrounds with the diverse experiences? Um, I certainly am, know my cultural and socioeconomic place as an educated. I'm going to grad school, so higher education, middle class, white male who's married. I've got a family on the way. I'm not in a marginalized group at all. Some of the experiences that I had prior to getting to this point of living paycheck to paycheck for a long time, having multiple part-time jobs to try and make ends meet, having vehicles that weren't reliable and continued to break down and had to find alternate ways of transportation. Those experiences I've had and are common amongst some of the marginalized groups that we've talked about. And in a lot of ways, I'm able to relate to some of the things that they're going through, but certainly have a much different experience because the opportunities that I had to um, and the opportunities that I took advantage of aren't always there for some of the groups, and it's difficult. Um, it's hard for us to always think in a mindset of putting the child's needs first. So often we think of we are the ones that know best for the kids. We're the ones that know best for the families. We're the professionals. Um, and it's not always that easy. Kids are, everyone's different, right? Families are different. Everybody has different experiences. And it's easy for us to, especially with kids that are good at it, to kind of lose control of our emotions and get caught up in the, you're not trying, you're unmotivated. If only you did this, then you'd be successful. And in reality, what we need to be asking is, how can we help? What can we do to um, make what we're doing easier for you? And that's not always easy to do in saying and giving up some of that power and control of our classrooms. And it's very similar to giving up power and some control when collaborating, because when you're going to ask for some help, or when you're looking at the data and seeing what we're doing right now in algebra class or wherever it might be, our common formative assessments are showing that kids are failing. They're not grasping these comments. It's hard to look within yourself and say, what am I doing that is contributing to this failure or lack of understanding, and having to go back. It's easy for us to blame the kids, and it's very hard for us to look inwardly and find reasons that we're doing things that are contributing to the lack of success of the students. So that was Another thing that we talked about in the race awareness workshop that was was a difficult conversation to have. The hardest one is definitely the hardest conversation we've had in this workshop, or we had in this workshop, was battling those cultural norms. Okay, so right now it seems our educational system, the norm is graduate high school, go to college, get a career. That that's not the reality for a lot of our students. It's just not. And so the liberty and justice for all, for people of color, for people of those marginalized groups, in that those opportunities to go to school aren't the same. And what does structural race and the social construct of race, where they meet, how is that affecting the groups in our schools? It's just a really difficult conversation to have, and it makes you feel kind of uncomfortable when you start talking about some of those things, and you kind of, I don't know, I'd rather not talk about it. It can be really challenging to understand what that impact really is. Um, I'm trying to cycle through here. That's not it. That's not it. Bear with me. I know I'm getting close to my time. Um, oh, this is the one I was looking for here. So poverty sucks, right? Living paycheck to paycheck is not easy. If one thing breaks down or if one thing happens, um, it can really, really ruin somebody. And it affects kids in ways that we really don't understand. Poverty sucks. So it sucks systematically undermines community, kindred spirit. Poverty really undermines that community, kindred spirit. Systematically, it does, because when kids are coming to school and they're hungry, kids are coming to school, they don't know where they're going to be going home to in the evenings. Kids are coming to school with um, the same clothes on, unshowered, unkept. That affects how they're going to learn, and if they're going to learn. I always talk about students coming in and having math first hour. We had a foundations of math first hour this year, and it was just challenging. Kids didn't want to be there. It was tough. Kids were coming in late. And you always think about, well, if you're just here more often, you're going to learn this topic. I found myself saying that. If you were here more often, if you were here more, why weren't you here though? Like that's the discussion that needs to happen. And that's tough for us to go back and say, well, I'll help you even though you weren't here, because you feel like maybe they should have been there and they weren't, and then is it up to them to come in and get help, or is it up to us to go and push and help them? But I always talk about how, kids come in and they're hungry, they haven't eaten breakfast, they didn't sleep last night for whatever reason, and then we say, you know what's important? Fractions. You know what's important? Algebraic expressions. And they're looking at us like, dude, I don't give a shit about your math. Sorry for the language. That is the words that have come out of kids' mouths. I don't give a shit about your math. Because they don't. We have to find ways to connect with all students. How can all people share those stories? So I was just really excited. I could go on. I'm already 2 minutes over my time. I could continue to talk about this for probably another half hour, but I'll wrap it up here. So relating back to self-advocacy, it's getting those kids to share those stories. It's getting those teachers to understand personal reflection. It's getting districts to look at those policies and say, what can we do to make sure that all students are successful every day? So that was really an important part about this race awareness workshop as well, and certainly willing to share some of the resources if you'd like in a written format. Feel free to reach out and ask if that's something you would like. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. I'm excited to wrap up week 7 and can't wait. Thanks.